So I get in there, right? And I start the cock spin, and I...
The what? Gyre?
The cock spins. Are you telling me you've never heard of the cock spins?
Just to make sure, what is that exactly?
Well, there's the cock spins, of course. Casting on critical while spinning passionately in the name of...
Oh, maybe you should work on the name a little bit more.
Well, we meet again, Internet. So, Gyre got a new augment called Cathode Current with the latest update, and it just so happens to work absolutely brilliantly with my cockspin setup, which is probably my favorite melee setup right now, so I decided to refine it a little bit more. First up is the aura. You can kind of run whatever you want, but Energy Siphon is actually a very nice aura for defensive purposes because we're using quick thinking as our main method of defense. Then we have Prompt Continuity as well as Augur Message to make sustaining our abilities a little bit easier, specifically for Warcry, which I will talk about in a little bit. Then we slap on Archon Stretch, which gives us a nice chunk of ability range, which is always nice, but it also gives us 2 energy per second forever, because we're always doing electricity damage, so we're always regenerating energy from this. I actually decided to push the range even further with Cunning Drift, though it's not all that important. Next up, we have Primed Flow. This is very important. We need a big energy pool for quick thinking, which prevents lethal damage by draining your energy. It basically drains your energy to prevent you from dying. Now, I don't usually like this, but on this setup specifically, where you have 3 different ways of generating energy, it's actually very, very good. Though you could just run Rolling Guard instead if you want to. Then comes the beautiful combo. Firstly, we have Eternal War, because we're subsuming Warcry over our second ability, and this helps sustain it by just getting melee kills. And a very similar thing is actually done by the new augment called Cathode Current. Eliminating an enemy while Cathode Grace is active will release an additional discharge from Rotor Swell with 200% damage and extends its duration by the same amount. This makes the build feel much better, especially if you're doing endless stuff. And to top it all off, we're running Transient Fortitude for a bunch of strength. So basically, we have Warcry, which gives us a ton of attack speed and is sustained completely by Eternal War if you just get enough melee kills. Then we have Cathode Grace, which boosts our crit chance and gives us a ton of energy generation for quick thinking and is also sustained by just getting kills. And finally, we have Rotor Swell, which zaps enemies in an area around us and chains the lightning all over the place, and this is sustained by the Cathode Current augment. So basically, you get into a mission, press 2, 3, and 4, and you have crazy attack speed, insane energy generation, ton of crit chance, and you zap and stun anything that dares come anywhere near you. One important thing though is that you want at least 1 Amber Archon shard to get 30% maximum energy is filled on spawn, because the build is very flimsy before you get your buffs up. And this 1 Archon shard allows you to activate all 3 of your abilities as well as give you some extra energy for quick thinking. You really need to be careful at the start so you don't get one shot, right? So when we spawn the heavy gunners, you want to activate Rotor Swell first to actually start zapping enemies and stunning them. Then you want to go into Cathode Grace, and only then you want to activate Warcry and go ham. Once everything is up, you're fairly safe because you have 3 things generating energy for your quick thinking, and the Chain Lightning from Rotor Swell will keep all nearby enemies stun locked. Now, the reason we get as much duration on this build as we do, even though we could probably sustain our abilities without it, is because sometimes this build can do a little bit too much damage for its own good with the Chain Lightning effect. And Eternal War doesn't get triggered with the Chain Lightning effect. You need to kill the enemies with your melee weapon. So we need that extra duration to sustain Warcry, though if you don't mind recasting Warcry every now and then, you can actually drop one of the duration mods. The biggest issue with this build is its defense, because while yes, it is the quickest thinker you have ever seen in the game, it still gets one shot every now and then, especially by high damage enemies like Acolytes. But that only really happens in Steel Path, and it doesn't happen every time, it's only when the Acolyte lands a big hit. Everything else about this build is absolutely top notch. The damage is great, the mobility is great, and it's just a ton of fun. So I would highly recommend you try it out. You won't regret it. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.